disc golf plastic. Disc golf
Plastics.
Obviously, lots of different molds have different plastics. Different companies all have different plastics. Some of them are very similar plastics. Different plastics have different stabilities for discs, and they also have different durabilities. But it's not a perfect, linear thing for how stable something makes it versus how durable is it. So, for example, in the DX plastic, very not durable. I don't know what the opposite of durable is.
It's not forgiving plastic.
Right.
It gets
beats
beaten up,
real
chunked
quick.
up. The flight characteristics are constantly changing on the disc.
But as opposed to something like champion plastic, it's not very stable.
Sure.
Yeah. I want to just jump in, and I know we talked about discs a little bit in a past episode, and something that Lou said has really stuck with me. And when we were talking, I think about beginners and disc speed and plastic and, but in the lens of a beginner, to don't use a disc that is changing on you while your technique is changing. I really thought about that for a long time after you said that, and kind of looked at my bag and thought, okay, like what in here? I don't throw any baseline plastic, but that's such an interesting idea. When someone is learning how to play, is their arm changing or is their disc changing, or is it a combo of both? And how can you properly learn, form and things as the plastic, even in certain weather, plastic is different and it will fly different between the winter and the summer. So at that point, just, I guess, thank you for that, because it really got my brain going for a while. I'm really thinking about, why do we give beginners necessarily baseline plastic? Sure, maybe give them for their first round, and once they're into it,
we sell the game on cheap. We sell the game that, it's so inexpensive. This disc, look, it's only $8, but you get what you pay for too.
Yeah.
So it's funny, we sell everybody that disc golf is so super cheap, and then what do? We have 300 discs in boxes we haven't seen in the last decade.
All $25 a piece.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. But
no, plastic, going back to our actual topic today, it's it is very important when it comes to your game and discovering what discs you need or don't need.
Sure. I think some plastic types are good for different applications. Some people might find their stabilities or different stabilities in the same mold. I think giving somebody the less durable plastic as a beginner, I think it's like there's less attachment to them. We know they're not like the greatest disc we ever had. Maybe we came across one. Maybe someone didn't ever want it back. You found it on a course and you call the guy, hey, I have your DX Leopard. The guy might hang up on you. Like, I don't even want that thing back.
So, I threw it in a lake. How did you get that?
Sure. Oh, my favorite has got to be, hey, I found your disc on the course. I've never played there in my life. That's a good one. So, yeah, we give away the cheaper plastic to beginners, and I think it's good because the cheaper plastics, let's just say, are the plastics that are made for the beginner, maybe. Could be partially because that plastic has an easier flight to some of the molds, and also I think they have great grip and texture to the plastic runs. So giving somebody a nice hard candy plastic disc, it might be too stable for them, and they might not connect with the grip. It might feel slick to them. So I think the cheaper plastic has its role in terms of helping out a beginner. They ultimately will, if they fall in love with the sport, the advice stays the same. Find something that has good durability so you can take the variable of a changing disc out of the equation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when finding discs you love, once you find that, I don't know, like the rim that feels the best in your hand, playing with the plastic in that is so important. I think, did you mention a Leopard 3? Maybe you did. I think the ding 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 went off because I love my Leopard 3, and I love it in all plastics, and they do different things. And I think that's really interesting to play with because for me, that feels really nice to my fingers as well as the Sidewinder. Those are my two off the tee discs. Or, I mean, there are others in there too, of course, based on the hole.
The shape of the mold is
yes,
perfect
it feels very comfortable in my hand. And I think as quickly as you can find that is number one. Because you want something that always feels comfortable in your hand. And then from there, you can get creative.
Yep.
And never have to go above, let's say, a 7 or a 9 speed.
Yeah.
Not everybody needs to throw 10, 11, 12, 13 speed discs. And you can have just as much distance with something that feels like home in your hand than trying to work something higher speed into your game.
Yeah. And to the point we talked about on the last episode, kind of our preferences.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll ask you guys just real quick, what is kind of your game plan in terms of in a long term of a certain mold that you find? Do you find a high durability plastic in the mold that you like, or do you go a little bit lower durability and have maybe a really beat in one, halfway beat in, brand new, and use that mold like you were saying that feels good to get the different stabilities? Or do you find a high durability plastic in 3 different molds that have 3 different stabilities? What do you guys kind of work into your bags that way?
A couple thoughts come to mind
Are you
really
ready?
quickly.
Are you ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
Are you ready?
There's a lot going on.
I know, I have so
I'm
many
ready.
things.
This is a
I
loaded
gotta-
question. We don't have enough time for this. Go ahead.
A couple things. I think it's interesting when people potentially use discs and they're beat in so well for too long that if you lose it, you lose a whole slot in your bag. I am thinking about, I know for me right now, I throw the Origin, and I've had it since I started, and I throw it a lot, and it's getting flippy, and I think, you know what? Is it time to take this out and replace it with a new one so that it doesn't keep changing? Or if I lose this disc, I don't have a proper replacement because one is not getting used or beat in enough. Do you think people should keep kind of fresher plastic in their bags? So let's say, unfortunately, we've seen instances of people stealing bags, like from pros. Unfortunately, that has happened. And what do you
Right.
do when your discs that you've, gotten to a place that you know so well, but
Or you
that's
just
not
throw
the way
it
they
in
come
the
out of
lake,
the
you lose
factory.
it.
But like something like that, what do you do?
Just your good backup system.
Yeah.
Do you work other discs in your practice to be ready to
Be put into your bag, or do you keep like fresh discs? And I know that's not exactly what you asked, but that made me think of that with
That's
the same
close.
with the same mold, different plastics, but
Yeah.
how fresh is that?
No,
I think
that's a
it
great
adds
point.
to the complexity of how you work and build your bag. Oh, it's a simple question, but it's much more than that, is what you're saying.
And also, runs of discs are different.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Same plastic, different stabilities.
Well, not the same
Correct.
plastic. The number.
Well,
the,
right.
talking-
Same name. Different
Um,
runs.
like
so
different
my,
years,
my
yeah.
I had a very interesting journey. I had a very mixed bag for a very long time. Friends know now that I've predominantly been just throwing a certain line of plastic for a while, and I find it very, very predictable. Where I have several discs in my bag that are the original discs I bought 6 years ago, and they have the same stability. Yeah, they've hit trees and stuff like that, but their mold holds so true and so well that if I lost the disc, I know that I just lost something on a sentimental value. But in terms of flight, I trust the company for me to just go pick one off the shelf and it to be what it says it is, which is comforting. So I would really focus on the brands that you use and just stay up to date with what they're coming out with. I every once in a while just throw some of the molds in newer runs to see if, hey, is this driver staying consistent with the one that's in my bag right now? Yes, cool. I'll throw it for a little bit and then I'm just reassured. I don't need to worry about having to find the perfect backup because the companies are doing better at replicating the flights on these runs, we'll call it, because
Sure.
the molds don't change necessarily. They'll tell you if
Right.
the molds change. The plastic constantly changes. The raw material. Talking to manufacturers, that's what it's going to come down to.
Quality control.
And we have control over what we do, and not we. I don't make any discs, but
Get Lou's custom discs in the link below. No, I'm just
Listen. We're not coming out with that just yet. But the people who are injecting their molds, the companies that are injecting their molds, when they have these raw materials, they're at the mercy of who is providing them with the raw materials. They have to, use their trade secrets, add their fillers to even get weights right sometimes.
Yeah.
That's all gonna basically come down to how these discs dry, their curing time, the pigments, the time of year. Are you climate control company, or are you just, you got the windows open to your shop pumping out plastic? And yeah, earlier today, those drivers were flippy, and in the afternoon, those drivers are way overstable. Yes. So, there's a lot that goes into making something consistent. The plastic is the catalyst to it all.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing with the plastic that I find is I don't have the fastest arm speed. So honestly, the more beat in a disc gets, the farther it goes for me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of discs that I throw out of the, off the rack are too stable, so I gotta force it over. But as they get beat in, they get flippy, obviously, on their own. I think that might be a thing with newer players. Because I know, especially just talking about plastics in general, when I first started, one of the most overwhelming things was like, all right, you gotta find the mold, you gotta find the speed of the disc and all these different things. But the plastics was so confusing. It's like, all right, these flight numbers mean something, but not really, because it's different times of the year, different runs, different plastics. It was really confusing for me, and I kind of understand it now, but it's definitely something the new players
going to struggle with for a little while, for sure.
Especially
Absolutely.
looking at different manufacturers and knowing which ones are similar to different manufacturers. Like, it's hard because it's not like, okay, everybody uses the same naming system. Of course they don't, because
Well,
they're different companies.
Discraft
But
for a long time, they used to just have the arrow and like the 1-number decimal system, and just based off of the mold, it's saying it was a distance drive or a mid-range. It was 1 arrow, 1 number to tell you kind of the flight characteristic. That wasn't as in depth as the 4-number system with speed, glide, turn, and fade. So, but yeah, having that across the board helps. It's, I think, something that helps a player understand in the beginning stages. But then, like we're talking, all that could just be chucked out the window if we're talking plastic types.
Right.
Your Leopard in a Star Plastic versus a DX Leopard are going to fly
so different.
dramatically different.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see another clip of the HyzerCast podcast, click this video right here. If you'd like to see a video from our main channel, Hyzer Media, click this video right here. And if you haven't done so already, click this link right in the middle to subscribe to our channel, or the red button down below. Thanks.